For a long time, the web was basically built on a promise that it just couldn't keep. See, web pages were getting super complex, they were turning into full-blown interactive applications. But the protocol underneath it all, HTTP 1.1, well, it was like a simple one-lane country road. This is the story of all the ingenious and sometimes really messy hacks that engineers came up with to build a fast web on a slow protocol. I mean, just imagine trying to run all the traffic of a 6-lane superhighway through a single country lane. That, right there, was the huge problem. Web pages weren't just simple text documents anymore. They were these sprawling applications. But the actual rules of the road, the HTTP protocol, it was still designed for a much, much simpler time. So you gotta understand, this isn't just some dry technical history lesson. It's a story about creativity and engineering under some serious constraints. We're gonna go on a journey through this series of escalating problems and the clever hacks that were invented to solve them, and how each solution created a brand new challenge. All right, so let's start at the very beginning with the first, most fundamental bottleneck. There was this hidden tax on performance that made loading even a simple web page incredibly inefficient. We'll call it the connection tax. The problem was that every single file, every image, every script required a brand new, time-consuming introduction to the server. Think about it like this. With the original HTTP protocol, if you needed, say, 10 things from a website, it was like walking to a restaurant, ordering one single item, walking all the way back home to eat it, and then repeating that entire trip 9 more times. I mean, it was just maddeningly inefficient. So what's the technical cost of that walk to the restaurant? Well, it's called a TCP handshake. You can picture it like a little 3-step dance that your browser and the server have to do before they can even start talking. First, your browser sends a message saying, "Hey, you there?" That's the SYN. The server replies, "Yep, I'm here, ready to go." That's the SYN-ACK. And finally, your browser says, "Awesome, let's talk." That's the ACK. Each of these steps takes time, what we call round-trip time, or RTT. Now imagine a page with 90 different files. That's 90 of these full handshakes. Just a massive waste of time. So the first logical solution came along: HTTP Keepalive. The idea was brilliant in its simplicity. Instead of hanging up after every single request, why not just keep the line open? The before state here shows you 2 separate handshakes for 2 files. In the after state, there's just one. So for n number of requests, you save n-1 round trips. For a modern website, that's a total game changer. But here comes the reality check. While Keepalive was amazing for reducing latency, it came with its own set of production headaches. For one, leaving thousands of connections open could totally exhaust a server's memory. And what if the server decided to close a connection, but the client didn't know? Well, your next request would just fail. It was a really powerful tool, for sure, but you had to tune it very carefully to avoid shooting yourself in the foot. So we fixed the connection tax, but of course, in doing so, we just revealed the next major problem. The connection was open, which was great, but most of the time it was just sitting there, silent. We'd basically just traded one kind of inefficiency for another. This bank teller analogy is just perfect. With Keepalive, you're at the counter, but you can only do one transaction at a time. You ask for something, then you have to wait, just wait for the teller to finish that entire task before you can even ask for the next thing. All that waiting time, it's pure wasted silence on the network. Now, the next idea, it seemed brilliant. HTTP pipelining. The thinking was, why not just send all of your requests at once? The server would work on them and then send the responses back, one by one, in the exact same order. But this led to a fatal flaw, something called head-of-line blocking. Imagine you're in a drive-thru, and all you want is a soda, but you're stuck behind someone ordering 50 burgers. Your soda is ready, like instantly, but you're just blocked. You can't get it. And here's what that looks like technically. Look at this timeline. Request number 1 is for the main web page, and that requires a really slow database query. Request number 2 is for a tiny little CSS file that's ready to go almost instantly. But because of that strict first-in, first-out rule of pipelining, the server literally can't send you the CSS file until that slow database query for the first request is finished. The entire page load is blocked by one slow response. So the key takeaway here is that pipelining, while it looked good on a whiteboard, was a total disaster in the real world. One slow API call could freeze an entire page. A lot of proxies and firewalls out there didn't understand it and would just break the connection. And what if a connection failed midway through? Complete chaos. About the only place it ever really worked was in these super controlled environments, like what Apple used for iTunes, where they controlled both the client and the server. So with pipelining pretty much dead on arrival, we were back to square one, sending one request at a time on each connection.
For a modern web page, that was just way too slow. So engineers turned to a brute force solution. If one lane is too slow, let's just build more lanes. And this is the 6-lane highway hack. Instead of having one super long checkout line at the grocery store, you just open up 6 lanes and start processing people in parallel. Browsers started doing the exact same thing, opening up to 6 parallel connections to the same server, all to download resources at the same time. Now, this gave us a huge parallelism boost, but you guessed it, it came with trade-offs. Each of those 6 connections ate up memory and CPU on your computer and on the server. The connections would actually compete with each other for bandwidths, which led to a lot of inefficiency. And if a single app held all 6 connections open for something like notifications, it could effectively freeze your browser from loading anything else from that server. So, what do you do when 6 lanes aren't enough? Well, engineers came up with an even more clever, almost sneaky hack: domain sharding. See, the browser's connection limit was per hostname. So you could trick the browser by splitting your assets across a bunch of different subdomains, like assets1.site.com and assets2.site.com. The browser would see these as different stores and would happily open 6 new connections to each one, basically giving you more and more lanes. But, and this is a big but, this hack could totally backfire. Each new hostname needed its own DNS lookup, which adds latency. Each of those new connections had to go through that slow TCP handshake all over again. And if you were using HTTPS, you were adding yet another round trip for the security handshake. As you can see from the graph, there's a sweet spot, but if you overdo it, you actually make your site slower. Okay, so at this point, a completely different school of thought started to emerge. All of these hacks we've talked about were about managing connections. But what if the problem wasn't the connections themselves, but just the sheer number of requests we were making? What if we could just make fewer requests? The underlying problem here is what you could call the weight of the envelope. For every tiny piece of data you want to send, even just 3 bytes that say hi, it's wrapped in over 800 bytes of HTTP headers. The packaging is literally thousands of times larger than the content inside. So the solution? Bundling. We started smashing dozens of JavaScript files into one giant file and combining lots of little images into one big sprite sheet. But this solution created a whole new set of user experience nightmares. Imagine you change just one line of code. Well, guess what? The user now has to re-download the entire 500 kilobyte bundle. Or say a user is on your settings page. They still have to download all the code for the home page, code they will never even see. And worst of all, the browser is completely blocked, unable to render anything until that one giant file is fully downloaded and parsed. It was just a terrible trade-off. And this led us to the most extreme hack of them all: inlining. Instead of just linking to a resource, you just embed it directly into the HTML document itself. It's like writing a research paper, and instead of having a bibliography at the end, you copy-paste the entire text of every single book you referenced. I mean, it gets rid of the request, sure, but at the cost of bloating your main document and making caching basically impossible. So after this long, complex, and clever history of workarounds, it became pretty clear that we weren't just fixing problems anymore. We were just patching the symptoms of a fundamentally broken system. This entire age of hacks was the necessary prelude to a complete rethinking of the protocol itself. And this slide just sums up our entire journey perfectly. We started with the high cost of connections, right? That led to Keepalive. But that created idle time, which led to the failed idea of pipelining. The lack of parallelism forced us into this 6-connection hack, and when that wasn't enough, domain sharding. And finally, the sheer overhead of all those requests led to concatenation and inlining. It's a perfect cascade of problems and clever, but ultimately flawed solutions. And this, right here, is the ultimate takeaway. All of these clever tricks, spriting, sharding, concatenating, they weren't best practices. They were stopgap workarounds. They were brilliant, they were necessary, but they were ultimately flawed solutions to the deep limitations of HTTP 1.1. We were trying to build skyscrapers with tools that were designed for log cabins. This entire chain of complex, fragile hacks was the main motivation for creating a brand new protocol, one designed to solve these problems right at their root. So, the final question is this: if all of these clever hacks were just band-aids, what was the cure? The answer to that would change the web forever.